Hello and welcome to another Tri-tutors video. Today we are having another 5-minute poetry lesson on The Garden of Love by William Blake. So remember, this is not an in-depth analysis but merely a revision tool. I went to the Garden of Love and saw what I never had seen. A chapel was built in the mist where I used to play on the green. So firstly, we notice that there is a rhyme scheme. We also notice the use of the I, and the personal pronoun really makes this a sincere, authentic story. Garden of Love is capitalized to indicate the importance of this place to the speaker. Remember, in poetry we always talk about the speaker, and so he is reflecting as he visits this place where he had all these fond memories during his childhood, and he calls it the Garden of Love. So the significance of the word garden, as we're going to see later, flowers, is this natural imagery and this idea that nature is right, and then he's going to be criticizing religion for taking away that nature, or taking away that love, or taking away that place where he used to grow up. And he saw what he'd never seen there before, because now things have changed. He's grown up, he's coming back to this place. A chapel was built in the midst, so a chapel obviously representative of religion, where I used to play on the green. So green representing nature, now it's gone, the nature is gone, it is replaced with a chapel. And the gates of this chapel were shut, and thou shalt not writ over the door. So I'm going to discuss why I've highlighted the and when I get to the last stanza. So as he arrives at this place, which used to be this Garden of Love, he sees that there's this chapel, and the chapel is not a very inviting space. And so this is the comment on religion, about religion not being welcoming, of being very restrictive and sort of unwelcoming, because the gates represent, seclusion or restriction, and they were shut. Thou shalt not writ over the door, and that's like an allusion, a reference to the 10 Commandments, where you have thou shalt not, you shall not do this. It's not you should do this, but rather you should not, which really emphasizes the speaker's take on religion, his opinion of religion. And it's written over the door, and a door usually represents opportunity, but here we have the thou shalt not writ over the door, meaning that there's no opportunity. So we're really getting this bleak view of religion from the speaker's interaction, or the speaker's narration of this story. So I turned to the Garden of Love that so many sweet flowers bore. So he turns away from the chapel to sort of look into the yard and see what is there. And so many sweet flowers bore, he had such positive memories of the Garden of Love. And now we're going to have something called anaphora. So we had it in lines 5 to 6, but it's sort of taken to a different level, lines 9 to 12. An anaphora is the repetition of a word or phrase at the start of subsequent lines, and is really used effectively here because the anaphora emphasizes how boring, monotonous, routine religion is. And so the use of the ands really reinforces the speaker's bleak and gloomy perspective towards religion as being something that undermines creativity and is somewhat, repetitive. And so he turns to the garden, and what does he see? He says, I saw it filled with graves and tombstones where flowers should be. And so this can be seen literally and figuratively, because literally, it's where possible, it's a graveyard. But it can also refer to the sense that he feels like religion is so incredibly bleak that it's almost like it's lost all these flowers that he remembers from his childhood. All the beauty of the place has gone. And priests in black gowns were walking their rounds. So obviously priests do wear black gowns, but the use of the word black is obviously also adding to this gloomy, bleak sense of what religion is to the speaker. And they're walking their rounds. Do you see how repetitive that is? So that really links up nicely with the anaphora. They're not walking in a direction that is, important. They're just repeating things. And binding with briars my joys and desires. And binding is like almost, it makes us think of the gates back in stanza 2. Is being restricted, and so this sense of religion is restricting his joys and desires, his creativity, his expression of thought. And so ultimately this poem we can classify its tone as reflective, it's contemplative, it's also sincere, but it's also quite critical towards religion as well. The theme is obviously the the restrictive nature of religion and sort of rejecting or resisting this idea of religion. And William Blake himself is a really interesting person to research in terms of his perception of religion, especially during the time that he was writing, when religion was something even more important than maybe it is today, or it was recognized by more people than it is today. I hope that was helpful. Please subscribe.